Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Time for Truth Show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to a Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. It's a pleasure to be back with you again tonight. Some quick housekeeping. Many of you have been wondering how to avail yourself of the show, become members, very simple. Go on YouTube, click a Time for Truth show. Hit the subscribe button. There's no fee. And the only requirement is that you help us make a better world, a happier world, a flourishing world. And tonight, we have something extremely important for our families, for our communities, for our nation, for the world. Because what happens if 100 people die in an airplane crash? You hear it all over the news. People investigate. Let's take that 100 a day in one crash, and let's make 113,000 in 2023 that died of drug abuse, and wonder why there's no investigation and why there's no furor in the media. And to that, tonight we're very lucky to have with us a very, very driven, ethical, passionate man, Mr. Michael DeLeon. And I'm going to start showing you some images of Mr. DeLeon. There you see him. If you wanted to know the definition of high energy, you see it on the screen with DeLeon. Really, he's an amazing story, from prison walls to the national stage. Transformation that very few could ever accomplish and very few could achieve. Nearly 2 decades of despondency and drug addiction, gang involvement in crime, and then serving 12 years in prisons. He emerged, a miracle, with something rare: clarity, purpose, and relentless drive to change lives. He's the founder of Steered Straight, taking his message across 50 states and beyond, reaching more than, listen to this closely, 16 million students, parents, educators, and professionals. He's a #1 book school presenter in America and spoken at hundreds of schools annually, peaking at over 700 in a single year. That's 2 a day, my friends. Unbelievable. Presenting to more than 1.5 million people per year. He's been a keynote speaker and presenter for leading organizations, including National Conference on Addiction Disorder, Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, the American School Counselor Conference, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and numerous state and national law enforcement agencies. We're really so honored to bring you this groundbreaking series with Mr. Michael DeLeon, who's been on the front lines of America's addiction crisis, with a movement to stop it, with a heart like a Goliath, Ulysses, a Hercules. Tonight's show isn't just a show. It's a national movement fueled by experience, credibility, and a mission to do well. And Buddha, engineer, if you will, let's bring him up live. And bid a warm welcome to superhero, although I know he doesn't like to hear this, Michael DeLeon.
Hey, how you doing, Ben? How are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. Well, you're in Arkansas now, right?
Yeah, I'm on the front lines. I'm down in Arkansas today. We had 4 schools today in Arkansas that we saw. So thousands of kids got the truth about drugs, and we empowered more kids like we do every single day. We'll be here till tomorrow, and then Tennessee, then Texas, then Michigan, then New York. So we're all over the country.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, first I wanted to start with you because you're an amazing story. You have unbelievable energy, and I know a lot of the people watching the show want to try and emulate or understand how to do this. So do me a favor. Take me back and take us all back first to what your life was like before addiction and before crime entered your life. What was it like? What was going on back then?
Well, for me, unfortunately, addiction entered my life very young. I was 11 years of age. I was introduced to tobacco products, alcohol, and marijuana at the age of 11. So, unfortunately, I started very, very young. And I've interviewed 70,000 men and women in prison. 70,000 men and women in prison, and 96% of them started before the age of 18. So it's not unique, but it started very young. And before I turned 18, I was on heroin. So I went from tobacco products and alcohol and nicotine to hardcore illicit drugs. So, you know, that's a major, major problem. But I unfortunately did the best I could in my teenage years, where you know, I didn't want to get involved in crime. I didn't ask to get involved in crime, but drugs leads to crime, unfortunately. I mean, it just really does. Drugs leads to crime. And I unfortunately got really head up in criminal activity and in my 20s, and I started dealing drugs and get involved in gang activity. And before you know it, you know, I was hardcore illicit drugs, dealing guns, dealing drugs for a gang. And I unfortunately, you know, affected my entire family. My whole family was affected by this. And I had orchestrated a huge drug deal. I put some drug dealing together between 2 rival gangs. It was really big. It was bigger than anything I've ever been involved in. And it went wrong. It went really bad. And unfortunately, I had brought 2 people with me for protection, but I didn't think the whole drug deal through, and we got robbed. And they shot at us. And I had brought 2 people with me for protection, and they both got hit. And one of them, unfortunately, died at the scene. And his brother was the leader of our gang. So the leader of our gang, his 18-year-old brother, was murdered in this drug deal that went bad. And so he held me responsible. And he said to 2 kids, go get DeLeon, bring him to me, because I'm going to kill him. He wanted me dead. And so I was hit. You know, I ran. I just went out and used drugs for 3 days to try to lay low for a little while. And when he sent those 2 kids to find me, they got to my house. And when they got to my house, I wasn't home. But unfortunately, my 63-year-old mother was home. And they murdered her.
Oh, my God.
It was Sunday, May 14th, 1995. That was the worst day of my entire life. That was the day my mom was murdered. And that happened to also be Mother's Day morning.
Oh, my Lord.
So
Wow.
I'm the man who got his mom murdered on Mother's Day morning. They came looking for me, and they found her, and they killed her. So this is beyond tragic, the worst day that it could possibly be. And 6 jurisdictions of law enforcement came in to investigate. And the kid who sent those gang members to get me, he was afraid they were going to talk. This brought all this law enforcement down onto his drug operation. He was shut down for a month, and he was afraid they were going to talk. Plus, he didn't authorize them to kill an innocent woman on Mother's Day morning. So he killed both of them. He killed those 2 kids, the ones who killed my mom, he killed them, and everything changed because somebody has to pay for this. I mean, someone has to answer for the death of the innocent woman on Mother's Day morning. So they found a lot of drugs in my closet, and they held me kind of held that over my head, and they pushed me and my lawyer to take responsibility for this. And I was not willing to take responsibility. I was responsible. I brought this death into my mom's life. I mean, I have to say, Ben, you know, I'm responsible for my mom's death. I mean, she's dead because of me. They were looking for me. They were supposed to kill me. And they didn't kill me, they killed her. So
Right.
I'm responsible for her death, but I didn't do it. So they wanted me to plead guilty in this case, and I told them they were out of their mind. I wasn't going to plead guilty in this case. So they
Mike,
indicted me.
Mike, let me just interrupt you for a second. And they realized you really didn't do it, but they just wanted to take the plea.
I'd say half of the law enforcement community believed I didn't do it, and probably half the law enforcement community believed I did. I was just a junkie. I was a drug addict. They found all this drug paraphernalia and drugs. I was using heroin and meth and cocaine and smoking marijuana and drinking and taking pills. I was a garbage pail drug addict. All I was a junkie to them. So half the law enforcement community believed I did it, and the other half said, of course he didn't do it. But they wanted somebody to answer for this. They wanted the case to go away, and somebody had to pay the price. So I refused. And so they indicted me. They impaneled a grand jury, and they indicted me, and they arrested me off of a grand jury indictment. And so, unfortunately, they arrested me and charged me with the first-degree murder of my own mom on Mother's Day morning. And I sat in a county jail in New Jersey for 2 years facing this accusation. And after 2 years, I took 3 lie detector tests, and I passed every single one of them. And now they really didn't know what to do. I mean, now they were really confused. What are we going to do now? Well, they came at me with a plea of 5 years. The least amount of time you could get in New Jersey at that moment for a murder, an aggravated manslaughter, was 30 years. And they offered me 5. They said, we want this to go away. You want this to go away. We'll give you 5 years. We'll tell the public that you're getting 20, but we're going to put a little agreement in your plea agreement that will release you after 5 years. And I said no. I wanted my day in court. So we were about to start jury selection, and my public defender came into the conference room, and he put the plea agreement down on the table, and he said, listen, I just want you to know, if we go out here and pick your jury and we lose, you're going to get 30 to life. If you sign this piece of paper, you've been in jail for 2 years, you're home in 3. You will be home in 3 years, and I'll have you in a halfway house in 6 months. Now, I didn't even know what a halfway house was. A halfway house is a community place where people who are coming out of prison live for a period of time while they acclimate it back into society. Wow. He said, if you plead guilty in this case, you're getting 5 years. You've got 2 years in, you'll be home in 3, and I'll have you in a halfway house in 6 months. So I don't know what you would have done, but I tell you what I did. I picked that pen up and I signed that plea agreement, and I took the plea, and I got 5 years. So like I said, I had 2 years in, and I had to do 3 more years. So I did the 3 more years. I did 3 years, right? And after 3 years, I came home. So it was 5 total years. 5 total years I was in prison. So I was 2 years in a county jail, 3 years in a state prison, and I was released. And they tacked on 5 years probation, so I would stay on the straight and narrow. And then it might not surprise you or shock you what I did 7 days later.
Tell me.
I got high again.
Wow.
I was so addicted. I was arrested and incarcerated for 5 years, but I never changed my mindset, which I know how much you understand about mindset. I never changed my thoughts. I never changed my heart. And I never dealt with the unchecked trauma of my life. And when I came home...
Unbelievable. Let me ask you a question. For those 5 years that we were in prison, you didn't have anything you had no drug, right? That's an amazing...
I mean, there was drugs in prison, but I never touched any of it. No, I was clean, sober, off drugs for 5 years.
Amazing.
And I was home for 1 week, and I put a needle in my arm again. It's
amazing, because I think that's something so important that you're going to go into here that I think we need to share with the people. You're totally 100% on the mark here. I would have thought, well, 5 years, this guy is rehabilitated. He's going to be free. So, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because a lot of kids are going to be watching this program. There's going to be a lot of people who probably don't think they're addicted, but are taking drugs. So why don't you go on with this story and explain to them, Mike? Go ahead, please.
Well, one of the things is that the drugs, the actual drugs, and then the paraphernalia that you use drugs with, the needles, the hypodermic needles, the screens, the metals, and then the poisons that are in drugs, they don't really all leave your body. They stay in your body. So those drugs, even though I was clean for 5 years, I wasn't putting new drugs in my body. I still had drugs in my body. It takes a purification. It takes a niacin detox to get all that poison out of your body and all the poisons of the world. And, I had cancer also, so I had chemotherapy, chemicals in my body, but the drugs and the paraphernalia and the things stay in your body. And so if you don't get that completely out of your body and detox your body, you run the chance of your brain picking that stuff up again once you're out running around and living a normal life. And so I used drugs again. And I had 5 years probation tacked on to my sentence, so I violated the probation. And so they sent me back to prison for 7 more years. 7 more years.
Wow.
Yep. So instead of doing 5 years and learning my lesson, I ended up doing 12 years because they sent me back to prison for 7 more years.
And that was only for that one time on the drug.
Yeah, I went on a run. I used the drugs, and I was home for about 7 weeks before they locked me up and sent me back to prison. So I was home a little less than 2 months using drugs for most of that whole time. And when they came to get me, they tested my urine. I had all these drugs in my body, 15 different drugs in my body. And they sent me back to prison for 7 more years. So I took a 5-year gift and I turned it into a 12-year nightmare. But the second sentence, when I went back to prison for 7 more years, that was when I realized what I needed to do with my life. That was when I realized that I was part of the problem and I needed to deal with my trauma as a kid. And I needed to understand how my brain, my thought process, and my mindset worked to change my life forever and never go back to using drugs. And so that second sentence of 7 years, I changed everything. I changed, this, and I changed my heart, and I changed how I felt, my emotions, my intellect, and I started reading and writing and journaling. And I wrote a business plan while I was in prison for the last 5 years for Steered Straight. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to reach kids. I worked in a program in prison called Scared Straight, where we bring kids into the prison and we scream at them and yell at them and threaten them, and that doesn't work. And so when I got out of prison, I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to educate kids. I'm going to teach them the truth about drugs and the truth about alcohol and the truth about vaping and the truth about fentanyl. I'm going to teach them the truth, and I'm going to teach them my story. I'm going to show them where these choices and where these decisions can lead them. And now that's 18 years ago, and I'm the #1 speaker for students in the world.
Well, you know what? It's an amazing story. Amazing because of how far you've come, where most people probably would have committed suicide, continued drugs, God knows what would have happened. It's unbelievable, and you really deserve a lot of acknowledgement, tremendous amount. I know you don't want any, but it's an amazing example that you're giving for people, and the energy that you bring is so high. Now, this project that you did in prison, is that what was called Project Pride?
Yeah, so Scared Straight has been around since 1972, and I convinced the Department of Corrections that it doesn't work, bringing kids in and screaming at them and yelling at them and threatening them. So let's take inmates out to schools and talk to kids in schools rather than bringing them to the prison and screaming at them. Let's just go talk to them and tell them the truth. And so I started this Project Pride program after Scared Straight while I was still incarcerated, and that led me to writing the business plan for what I run now, Steered Straight. And I've been to all 50 states, multiple countries, and coming up now on 17 million students, over 13,000 schools in all 50 states. So
it's really an unbelievable story. And so what most people are going to want to understand is what changed for you in that second time in prison. What was it that really made you realize that you had to change? Because many people, no matter how many knocks they go through, how many programs, they just don't shift their viewpoint. What was it that you saw, and what can you relay to the people watching this show that they can utilize?
I had to find my purpose. I had to find my purpose. I mean, God creates us with value and purpose, and every one of us has a purpose, a very unique purpose. Why are we here? And a lot of people don't even ask that question. What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life? I believe the meaning of life, I know the meaning of my life, is finding my purpose. And so I believed that God saved me to become a cautionary tale, a real live cautionary tale for kids, so they didn't hear a story. They didn't just hear their parents say, don't do drugs. Their health teacher said, don't do drugs. Their coach said, don't do drugs. Don't do drugs. Don't drink, okay? They could hear a real life cautionary tale where I could take kids on a journey and show them what will happen to them if they make the choices and the decisions that I make. And so I knew that was my purpose, and I sought it, I fought for it, and it wasn't easy. I mean, I was just another inmate, prisoner, convict, ex-con, ex-felon getting out of prison. No, people didn't believe me. Everybody says, oh, I'm going to turn my life around, but not everybody does. And I was ruthless, and I wasn't going to give up. I got the door slammed in my face. I said, I'm going to go to schools and I'm going to talk to kids about drugs. And they're like, you're going to go talk to schools? You're going to go into schools? An ex-convict like you're going to go talk to kids? And I'm like, yeah. And they laughed at me. And they said, you'll never do it. I said, okay, well, I love the expression, those who say it can't be done are interrupted by those who are doing it. So I said, I'm never giving up. It's my purpose. I believe it's my purpose. So I'm going to fulfill my purpose. And I just kept calling and kept calling and kept asking, and doors started opening, and then word of mouth spread, and I started doing every school in New Jersey, and then I was in New York and Pennsylvania and Connecticut and Delaware, and the next thing you know, all 50 states, 20 different countries, and I'm still going. I'm still talking to kids every single day. I go into jails and prisons and treatment centers and detoxes on the weekends. It's almost 365 days a year. I am talking to people about drugs and alcohol, but finding your purpose. That's what it's all about.
You know, Mike, this show is going to help a lot of people. This is only part one. So we don't want you to go away, because there's going to be a second part that we're doing very soon. But this is a great point for us to end on part one. Now you have the story. Now stay tuned for part two. We have a lot more to change your life from somebody who's an expert. Not these Facebook things you see about buildings and money and controlling people. How about being happy and helping the whole damn world? Thank you, Mike DeLeon, and we'll see you on the next segment of A Time for Truth show. And we hope you enjoyed part one. We're going to come back with part two very soon. Good night.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got. But the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet